Welcome to How Good Is. We're going to take a look at Swimsuit Madoka, the least surprising unit in the entire history of the game, and that's not taking anything lightly. This literally was the most predictable unit that this game has ever seen. I mean, at least in part of like being the character that it is, because so far every single year we've gotten a Pulamagi Holy Quintet member in their swimsuit. And this was just the last character from the Pulamagi Holy Quintet who hasn't gotten a swimsuit, and since they've done it every single year from the first year until now, and she's the last one who hasn't gotten it yet, yeah, of course she was gonna get one. No one was going to bet against this unless you're one of those people who are like, there's a 0% chance of victory, but if I win, I'm gonna make $1 million, so I'm gonna bet all my savings on it. Unless you're one of those people, you probably bet that it was gonna be Swimsuit Madoka, and you're right, she's here. Now, she does look kind of like she's trying to dethrone both Tanayachi and Marukami Senpai, but does she actually do that? Let's take a look at that. So her discs are on one hand a triple charge disc, which already tells us exactly what this unit is going to be. It's a support type, so that's good. I've recently come to the realization that there's actually no fucking point for anyone to be anything less than Magia type, and basically type only really comes down to how close are you to Magia type, because the only thing that type does is it changes how much MP you're generating with attacks or getting hit. That's the only thing your type does. Now, surely in the past I've gone on about how support types usually have less stats, which is indeed the case. She does have less overall stats than someone who wasn't a support type would have. But that's not a hard rule, right? There's nothing in the rule book that says that support types need to have lower stats. That's just something that the devs are doing, but they don't have to. They could give a support overpowered stats, nothing is stopping them from that. The only thing that type really actually does in the mechanics of the game is the MP modifiers. So really, when it comes down to it, you're just asking how much worse than Magia type is this type, because Magia type is the best type in terms of like MP generation. And support is the second best after Magia, so it's second best type. And maybe now in the future I'm going to start talking about type in exactly this way, because that's kind of the only thing that really matters when it comes to type. So yeah, second best type in the game, that's pretty good. The actual personal we're going to take a quick look at, because we've just seen 3 charge discs. The personal gives charge combo charge count up +2. I'm going to get a tongue twister again, because charge combo charge count up +2 is quite the thing to say. I'm going to have to say it again later in this review. Wow. As it goes defense up, which doesn't really matter, but the important part is charge combo charge count up +2 is quite a strong bonus, because when you're playing a charge generator, which is what this is, you want to have as much charge combo charge count up plus as you can possibly fit into the build. So this is like a blind auto include, because you're playing this character to generate charge. So why not generate more charge? And we will see in a second that this actually does fit in into the spot of Tanayachi in the Mirrors meta. So give me those charge points, man. Next up, we talked about the stats a little bit. They're average, but yeah, you would expect that. But the Connect gives charge conservation, or as I said maybe over a year ago, charge conversation. Funny, those jokes are a year old by now, because it has been quite a while since we've last actually seen a good charge unit. They've thrown out a whole bunch of really overpowered charge units in a row, and then they just didn't give us any other charge units. Like, you probably haven't seen that many charge strats recently in the last year, but it's not that charge has gotten weaker, it's that charge just hasn't gotten any new units since probably Marukami Senpai, which was over a year ago at this point. They just haven't given us any more units. It's not going to be the first really extremely powerful charge unit since then, so this one is making an impact. So yeah, we have charge conservation on the connect, which is important because of something we'll see later in a bit. But for now, just keep in mind, charge conservation on connect. That's the important part. I don't really need to even mention the other two parts of the connect because, let's be honest, if you're playing a charge strategy, neither of these two fucking matter. The damage up is fine, but if this was attack up instead, it really wouldn't make that much of a difference. Like, it would be worse, don't get me wrong, it would be worse if it was attack up, but ultimately, it's not going to make that much of an impact. Although damage up, like I said, is better. Next up, the Magia, or more importantly, the Doppel, which will probably, if you have 20 charge discs at 20 charge points, which you probably will have rather soon on a charge strategy against Kimochi, for example, you're always going to Doppel, right? Because a single Excel disc is going to give you Doppel. So what does the Doppel actually do? Damages all enemies. It gives charge conservation for allies to 2 turns. Wait a second, isn't that as strong as Madoka Senpai, who also gives charge conservation to all allies for 2 turns on Doppel? Isn't that fucking strong? She also does it on Magia, by the way. So yeah, that actually sounds pretty fucking strong, dude. So already we can see that, as I said at the beginning of this video, she's trying to somehow do what Murakami Senpai does, which is give charge conservation to the entire team. And in that sense, she actually does it pretty darn fucking well, because it does it exactly as well as Murakami Senpai, who was kind of busted when it comes to that. Now, what else does she do? And this is kind of where it drops a little bit. I mean, to be like, this unit isn't perfect, okay? This unit might be pretty darn good, but she does have some dumb stuff to her. And the dumb stuff is literally the entire other part of her Doppel. Aqua Attribute Attack Up. That fucking doesn't matter, because you're probably not going to play her on an Aqua team. There is a Kimochi where you want charge, okay? The Kimochi where you want charge is the Kimochi where the enemy is forest and you are using your fire characters. You're using Juri, you're using Kyoko, Doppel Kyoko, and if you're using Kyoko and Yuri, what the fuck does it matter to have Aqua Attribute Attack Up? That's the wrong element. It's not helpful, okay? So it's just the wrong fucking element, okay? On the Doppel, it's not gonna help you. So what else to do? Regenerate HP and anti-debuff. Why are we playing defensive against the Kimochi? That doesn't make any fucking sense. So yeah, the entire other part of this Doppel just doesn't make sense against Kimochi and against mirrors. You're not gonna Doppel in mirrors and actually make use of the effects, because if you Doppel in mirrors, the battle should be over when the Doppel hits. Like, no one should survive an enemy turn when you use your mirror's Doppel. So okay. So this is actually, these effects are just useless. You could just read this as give charge conservation to the entire team for 2 turns, which is still pretty darn fine. We know that Murakami Senpai was really good at this, and Murakami Senpai at least had light type, which had some use maybe in Kimochi compared to this. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you're fighting against the enemy fire type Kimochi where you are playing your Aqua team, you could use this and actually buff your team. It's just not going to be as effective as you might think, because against the Kimochi where you play Aqua units, like a Mayu for example, you just play Magia cycle or Doppel cycle rather. You're not going to charge. You don't charge against that Kimochi. In fact, when that Kimochi ran just recently, and I used Mayu and Hotaru and a regular Marukami, or even like, not Marukami, Maruiro, I didn't use a single disc other than Magias and Doppels for the entire battle. Every single disc for 6 turns was either Magia or Doppel. Not a single blue disc, no other disc in there. So the question becomes, why the fuck would you have charges in there? What's the point of that, having charges in there? But you can charge on your first battle. Just Magia on your first battle and Doppel on your first battle, there's no point in that. So yeah, the point really is, charge conservation is great, but the rest of the effects are fucking useless, okay? So let's just move on. I think I've talked enough about this point. Moving on though, we see the Spirit Enhancement where we have basic stuff for the most parts. Like recently they haven't really given us, I mean, apart from maybe Kuroe, Swimsuit Kuroe, they haven't given us any Spirit Enhancement that were like extremely busted overall. However, we do have charge command, charge count up +4, nailed it without biting my tongue, which is absolutely perfect because together with this, it actually gives +6, which is fucking insane. There are low rarity charge characters that gives like +2 with everything combined, and she just randomly gives +6. This character just gives +6. Like, what? Which is fucking insane. Someone did the math, so it's like if you did the highest charge count up plus that you can get like +18 or something. Or like in general, you get 18 charge points at the end of turn 1, which is almost 20. So yeah, that's fucking strong. What else does it do? So it also gives you generate HP and damage cut. The damage cut is really important if you're doing ranked mirrors, and she kind of is a top tier ranked mirrors unit. Maybe I might have spent too much time in this review before mentioning this, but she is a top tier, top three best ranked mirrors units in the game now. The entire ranked mirrors meta from now on will include Swimsuit Madoka. Why? Because just going +4 plus, here's the active charge straw. What the fuck, charge straw active with charge command, charge count +4. With this passive, you get so many charge points, and charge points give bonus points in mirrors, while at the same time you give damage cut to everyone. Damage cut does not factor into the enemy AI calculations, so you're just getting this damage cut without having to worry about AI manipulation, which is absolutely vital against some enemy high damage builds to survive. If you're playing a Sudachi on team, which you probably are, if you're trying to get really high mirrors points, you can buff Sudachi's survivability with the damage cut and the regenerate without screwing with the AI manipulation. It's fucking perfect. It does everything you want. Damage cut, charge count plus, and charge straw. Just fucking everything you need for ranked mirrors. What other unit do you need? And here we come back to the important part from earlier. You can even do some shenanigans with this. If on turn 1 you get a Polar combo from Swimsuit Madoka, you then have the connect with charge conservation, meaning that you can then conserve those charges to use multiple Excel discs with the with all of those charge points, and with those multiple Excel discs, you can excel yourself to doppels and multiple magias, and you can score a crap ton of fucking points really easily by immediately shooting up those charge points, immediately conserving those charge points into a lot of Excel discs, and then finishing off the battle with some magias and doppels, while at the same time your Sudachi stays safe with the shield aura. Fucking perfect. The people have been saying that the best lineup is, I think, Sai, Sudachi, and Swimsuit Madoka, the triple S for the triple S rank. So yeah, that's pretty good. So overall, what can we say about Swimsuit Madoka? Absolute top tier for ranked mirrors, a top tier ranked mirrors meta-defining character, you would even say. For Kimochi, she's still usable for Kimochi because charge conservation for 2 turns is extremely powerful. That said, if you purely want to go for Kimochi, maybe Marukami Senpai is better, to be honest. But if it's just for the charge conservation, you can use either, so still a pretty good character. So overall, a great character. Maybe not the strongest she could be, but definitely strong enough to make it really fucking high in ranked mirrors and still be really good in other places. But I wouldn't call it broken or anything, just extremely good. And that's where the story ends. At least when it comes to this character. We also have the Memoria, which is kind of, I think, comparable to a single target Meteor Rain. I know I often compare Memoria to Meteor Rain, because Meteor Rain is the best Memoria in the game, probably still. Like across the entire game, that is. So here's the thing. Meteor Rain does 50% attack down against all enemies, but this does 65% attack down against a single enemy on the same cooldown. So Meteor Rain has 5 turn cooldown on fully ascended. This has also 5 turn cooldown on fully ascended, so they have the same cooldown when they're fully ascended. So the cooldown is actually the same. This is something that's not a given. Like a lot of other Memoria out there that are trying to reduce enemy attacks, for some reason have way longer cooldown. I think there's Memoria out there with like fucking 8 turn cooldown, and they do like 30% attack down against all enemies. And then there's Meteor Rain, which does 50% on a 5 turn cooldown. what the fuck, because Meteor Rain is broken. But yeah, this is more than Meteor Rain on the same cooldown, but only against a single enemy, which actually makes this an interesting tech choice if you do manage to get this Memoria. So you can give this to one of your guys if you're fighting some really powerful enemies where you really need to debuff their attack, like really powerful bosses and evils, for example, or Paradox, what's it called, like Witch Extermination. In those events it also could be really nice, because basically in those events you're only fighting as a single enemy, so it's okay. Like Witch Extermination, you're only fighting as a single witch, so there's no difference between this or Meteor Rain when it comes to like the amount of enemies, so having more attack down is better. Now instead of the defense down, you give defense up to yourself, which in a lot of cases is actually better as well. But to be honest, to be completely honest, if there's only one enemy and you're giving that enemy a 65% attack down, you're probably gonna get hit by minimum damage anyway, so the defense up is fucking useless. The minimum damage an enemy can deal is 250 plus minus 5%. So if you're already getting hit for something like 240 damage or something, then the defense does nothing. But still, like I said, an interesting tech choice against singular enemies. This is also something that probably some enemies, some players, some whales, who gets enemies, what's the difference, will use in ranked mirrors. Because in ranked mirrors there might only be a single enemy unit whose attack you want to reduce. Like there's only one single damage dealer on the enemy team. So this is a tech choice together with Meteor Rain to use on someone in mirrors. But yeah, like I said, it's an interesting tech choice to use aside from Meteor Rain, and that makes it valuable. But if you're an average player, it's not going to be that much more different than a Meteor Rain, okay? And you hopefully have a lot of Meteor Rains already. But yeah, overall, that was that. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.